All right, hello everybody. Welcome to my weekly Meltdown's coverage of Survivor 40, Tony at War. With us tonight is the wonderful Matthew Henning, finally joining us here. How are you doing, Matthew?
I'm feeling some sort of way. We'll get to that later.
Okay.
You love some sort of way.
Well, I think Beth is also feeling some sort of way. How are you doing tonight, Beth?
I'm doing really well. I was put on a very emotional roller coaster tonight, and most of that was because of Denise.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Let's talk about it. So of course, like I definitely want to focus on the second tribal council a little bit more tonight because I feel like the Jeremy elimination was pretty straightforward. We saw it coming a mile away. We'll talk about it a little bit, but let's talk about the big one. Nick gets eliminated by a 4-2 vote tonight.
Yep.
Nick was just like so crazy, and I love that like Michelle really put him in his place tonight. You know, she said like, what did she say? I'm genuinely curious what you think our path to the end is here. I've been saying that the entire time. Like I've been saying, what is Michelle thinking for the end game? What is Nick thinking for the end game? What is Denise thinking for the end game? It's stuff
Ben
that
thinking for the end game.
Yeah. Right. And so I'm glad that Michelle like was the voice of the fandom tonight. She was like, Nick, what's your path here to the end? And he's just totally oblivious to all of it. What do you guys think?
I 100% agree. I think that I was really happy to see Michelle kind of come out of this, like, I don't want to say that she was playing like some kind of victim, like, oh, boo-hoo, like my game's put to shit. But she wasn't really doing anything that we could really see except for like making Jeremy act on behalf of both of them rather than like really putting her good foot forward. Yeah. So I really feel like that was a really brilliant move. What she needed to do was, as I said in our little chat with Allison and Tyler, I think she needed to throw her proverbial dick around a little bit more. I mean, she was absolutely right. If you're on the bottom, why not? If you have nothing to lose, throw everything to the wall. Why wouldn't you sit everybody down, have a house meeting, you know, as you would in Big Brother, and just be like, Ben, do you honestly think you could beat Tony? Tony, do you honestly think you could beat Sarah? And just call people out and make them have an open forum discussion and then sit back and watch the fire crack in the fire pit.
Do you think Denise would have just been like, nope, we're not doing that. We're done. I'm done. Do you think she would have done that?
No, I think what Denise would have done was played therapist and sat back and been like, well, because you saw how she played like I don't think I'm going to win. So like, let's do that. That's exactly what I think she would have done in that situation. But I don't know. Henning, what do you think about all of this?
Michelle was right. Nick was being an idiot. And the fact of the matter is, this tribal council, this one where Nick eventually goes, I'm very shocked Michelle and Nick did not try to go to Denise and be like, Tony's not going to see this coming. If we throw 3 votes at him, he's not going to play his idol.
100%.
You know, you'll at least tie it. The jury will be like, oh my God, they tied it. And there would have been a path to the end for Michelle, Nick, and Denise. Because Denise wants Tony gone. Right. And why no one is talking about trying to blindside Tony, because he's not going to see it coming. He's very comfortable where he is.
Do you think it would have come down? That's a really good point, Matt. Do you think it would have come down to a rock draw if they were to tie between Nick and Tony? Because that's how it would break down, right? It would be 3 on Nick, 3 on Tony.
And you'd have the revote.
Yeah.
And maybe someone like Michelle, Denise, and Ben might flip on Tony.
Yeah.
Because Ben's playing in a situation where he wants to get to the end.
Putting it out
and
there.
And if he sees Tony is now vulnerable.
Yeah. No, putting it out there, I think the person who would have flipped in that situation would have been Sarah. I think Sarah would have been like, I'm not going to rocks over Tony Vlachos after all of this. After all of this.
I think she would have.
He messed up my game twice in this game. I will not lose because of him. Not worth it.
You know who I would have loved that reaction in jury? Sophie. She would have been like,
"What?" And I think Sarah's smart enough to know moves like this at tribal council are the moves you have to make.
Totally. If you can then
would have
say,
been the move that would have.
Did we lose him?
Matt. So go ahead while he recontinue.
I think Matt's back. Matt, you were in the middle of something there. Do you want to repeat it?
I just think like the situation with like Sarah, she makes moves at tribal council. Like that's her shtick. So this was a chance for her to make a move at tribal council.
Absolutely.
And she's like, nah, I'm sending Nick home. Like Sarah does not have the resume to win this season.
I agree,
in my
Matthew.
opinion.
No, I 100% agree. When Michelle said, hey, do you really think that anybody here can beat Tony? That should be a red flag, not just to say, okay, is she trying to turn us against each other, but you should get the wheels turning a little bit. What is your play here, Sarah?
Yeah.
Are you planning on the fact that everybody left feeling pretty good about you, but worse about Tony? Because this is winners at war.
Yeah.
You know who you're going to reward? The people who made them feel like shit.
Well, and Michelle presented this thought to Sarah on the silver platter. You know, we saw at the beginning of this round, she says to Sarah, Tony can beat anybody. And she didn't even single out Sarah in that conversation. She was really, really good with how she delivered it. But what happened immediately after? Sarah goes right to like basically everybody except for Michelle.
And Michelle's 5 feet away.
Yeah.
I don't know. After playing such a masterful game in Game Changers, and I honest to God think that regardless of how people feel about Game Changers as a season or Sarah as a winner, I believe that she played one of the best socially strategic games of all time in that. And she's a very, very good social strategic person. She's like honestly, in a weird way, she's like a Kim. She makes everybody around her feel really good. She's the one that can see through cutting her allies in order to get herself further, kind of like a Kim, just not as likable as a Kim on the surface, right? Because she just has a very different personality. Yeah. But we're seeing so much more of her personality this time, and I think it's to her detriment. We're not seeing that killer instinct. The Sarah in Game Changers would have cut Tony tonight at one of the 2 tribal councils.
Yeah,
absolutely no way. What she's doing right now is playing for at best second.
Yeah.
But what she's playing for right now, honestly, is to make fire. And is she going to make fire and win? I don't think so.
Yeah, I
especially
totally,
if it's against
totally,
Ben.
I totally agree. And let's Sarah, not go ahead, Matt.
Well, I think Sarah summed it up with the Michelle immunity win at tribal council. It's like when you get comfortable, you take your foot off the gas. And when you have nothing to lose, you push the gas hard. Yeah. Sarah is playing too comfortably. And she is not going to win the game playing comfortable. Because that jury does not want to see someone who is playing comfortable.
However, we could have seen, so say like in that conversation where Denise takes Ben and Sarah to the well to get water, and Tony's up on his spy nest thing. Denise makes that pitch. She says, listen, let's take out Tony. She tries the same thing that Michelle does. And Ben and Sarah don't have it. They don't really do anything with that conversation. How different are we looking at a result if we hear Sarah and Ben at that conversation say, listen, you might be onto something. Let's do it. No way Tony doesn't play his idol at that tribal council event, right?
100%. 100%. I also think Sarah's smart enough to know Tony's probably up in the friggin' tree right now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sarah knows about the nest. She's not gonna have that conversation at that spot.
Right.
Can we talk about that, Denise? Denise Stapley. The fuck is wrong with you, my queen? Why are you having a conversation about Tony at the well when earlier in the season you, Sandra, and Kim went, I don't know if this is a good situation. Let's walk away from the well and have a conversation about Tony.
Well, maybe the hunger has gotten to her. Maybe if she had bought that rice sooner, she would be thinking a little bit more clearly.
Girl needed to buy some Wheaties. I swear to God. Y'all know I have been the biggest Denise Stapley supporter, but I have some question marks and concerns about her gameplay tonight. Yeah. But now that the dust is settled and we know she did not get voted out, I actually think, as we saw from the jury, a lot of people probably were questioning, like, what the fuck is she doing? But then saw what happened with that. I think they're going to like that as a move, which
Certainly.
I do think makes her a bigger target.
I think so too. You know, we cut to Adam, and he says to Sophie and Kim, he's like, "This is a takeout, right? Or a fake out.
Fake out.
Not takeout. Sorry, I'm
This
thinking
is
about
fake
dinner.
out.
I'm thinking about dinner. I'm thinking about the
Chinese
rice
food,
that
right?
Denise got. Yeah. He says this is a fake out, right? And they like nod in agreement. They're like, oh yeah. So maybe this is like a little like hinting at, you know, this did ultimately work out for Denise. But I don't think it helps Denise's case when Jeff is pushing this narrative at Tribal Council of Denise is a quitter for wanting rice. And it's something that she has to go to bat and defend herself. She even like cuts off Nick to be like, listen, like I gotta shut this shit down right now before it gets in people's minds. And that's kind of where I take issue with some of the things that Jeff does at Tribal Council and in challenges. Like again with like Michelle, like I feel like he was really shitting on Michelle this entire episode, both rounds too. Very much like in the challenge, he was like, Michelle dropped one block. What a waste of time. Like it's like things like that are just like out of control, and you don't see him ever saying that shit to Ben, to Tony. And Jeff's gone on the record and says that like Michelle is not a good Survivor winner, which is true. But you know, like these Michelle said it herself tonight, perception is reality. And these kind of thoughts coming from the host himself, like the God looking down at his people of the game. It's definitely something that kind of gets into your subconscious, I think, and I don't like it. What do you guys think?
I personally think Michelle next week needs to go to Denise and be like, listen, whoever is coming back from the edge of extinction, we need to grab, otherwise it's going to be 3 on 2 on 1.
Yeah.
And
Michelle needs, 100%. She needs to be able to shake Denise and go, do you think that you are going to the final 2 or final 3
with
any of these people?
And the answer is no.
Right. You do have to assume that it's going to be a final 3, but you never know. They might throw a final 2 at you at the last minute too, you know? So like, I think it's safe to assume a final 3. But I do think that like, if you're in the context of the game, you're 100% right, Henning. Michelle and Denise need to know that they need to grab the person who's coming back in order for it to at least be a 3-3 split. And Denise is in a good enough position in with Ben that she can potentially play both sides. And I don't know.
Well, I also think with next week, if someone comes back who has an idol from Edge, it's going to be an advantage Geddon situation, and it's going to end up being Denise versus Sarah.
I definitely think that could happen. I'm very worried about that because Ben still has his idol, Tony still has his idol, and then like so many people from Edge are coming into this thing with an idol.
With an idol.
Yeah.
So it'd be Rob, Tyson, or Natalie are the 3 that have idols?
I think Parvati has her idol. She bought one from before.
She did?
Yeah. She bought one. Parvati, Rob, and Natalie all bought idols round 1, and those idols are still very good.
I didn't think that she bought an idol. I didn't think she had enough tokens for an idol.
I'm pretty sure she did. But like they didn't show her saying it tonight, so I feel like it's not going to result in anything anyway.
But I mean, like, so long if one of those people who has an idol gets like over there, it's going to be the only options will be Sarah, Denise, and Michelle. And Denise and Michelle, if they're smart, aren't voting for themselves.
No, they're not.
They're voting for Sarah. Tony's a selfish bitch. He's not going to save Sarah if it means his ass is on the line.
Well, if he feels like he's safe enough, what they should do is pretend like it's going to be Sarah and then vote Tony and hope that Tony plays his idol for Sarah.
Yeah, but the odds of Tony actually playing something for someone else.
He was willing to do it 2 tribals ago. He was willing to play his idol for Sarah if Sarah wanted it. And that's the other thing. Nobody seemed to catch that moment, even though it was blatantly obvious when Sarah stood up and went, no, Tony, you don't need to play it. And then all they talk about is like, well, yeah, Michelle's advantage was wide out and open. Yeah. It's obvious that Ben and Tony both
really.
have
It's like
idols.
Ben and Tony have idols. We're just going to skip over that.
Literally openly talked about it at Tribal, basically. So like that was the other thing. Like I couldn't believe tonight that people weren't willing to try to go against Tony. Like I can't believe so many of them. Like why aren't Ben and Sarah looking at Tony and saying, yeah, he's our closest ally, but it won't upset anybody else if we're the ones that turn on him. We can still be in control of this game. If anything, we can recruit people to be the replacement for Tony and move forward.
Well, not only that, but I wrote down, like, for the Jeremy vote, I wrote down this point that, like, after Jeremy goes to Tony and says, like, listen, let's take out Ben, Tony goes right back to everybody at camp and tells everybody, like Ben included, that Jeremy just came to him with this plan, yada, yada, yada. All four of them are sitting on the bench, and Tony is, like, sitting on the ground. And he literally points to everybody. He's like, you're going to vote here, and you're going to vote here, and you're going to vote here, and you're going to vote here. Like, just that power of it's so obvious. Like, it's so, like, in front that, like, he is literally telling a group of 4 people in 7 people left in this game how to vote. And, like, the fact that, like, there's, like, no light bulb that goes off in any of these previous winners' heads to think, like, wow, this guy is ruling, like, steering the ship, like, way too much. And then they, like, Michelle, like, literally tells them about it, and they don't get it. They don't get it. And I don't understand.
I don't understand either. I haven't like Jeremy, who I also think is one of the best winners of all time, got completely missed by him for, like, a few votes. I don't understand that. Jeremy, what the frig are you doing?
Yeah.
And I can't believe that.
Yeah.
I know what Jeremy was trying to do. Jeremy was playing very much like Cambodia, where if someone sticks their neck out for them, or he can stick his neck out for someone else, he's going to latch on to that.
Right.
And Tony having his giant batch of green mist that he sprayed over everyone, Jeremy was just like, he saved me, and he saved me again. He's going to keep saving me.
See, I have a counter argument to that, though.
Yeah.
Go nuts.
Denise played an idol on him.
Thank you.
Why wasn't he more loyal and more willing to help him out?
I just don't understand. Like, that's the thing. Like, everybody, Tony is playing the most overt best game there. And there's, like, not many negatives about him, right? You can make a negative case for literally everybody else. What are you going to say that's negative about Tony? That it was 2 in their face, but yet they still didn't vote him out? That's a positive. There's literally nothing that people can say negative about Tony's game right now. He's socially playing a great game. He won 3 immunities in a row. He's strategized. He's made people feel good. And he's had people saying, like, damn, Tony, that was the wrong move. But are they shit talking him on edge? I mean, I guess we really don't know that. But, like, I highly doubt these are, like, people that won't vote for him at the end.
Right. No. I think everyone who has gone to the edge since, like, Tony decided to rule the world will vote for Tony. And they will get to the final tribal and they'll be like, y'all are stupid. We're voting for Tony. Sucks to suck.
Absolutely.
And if Tony gets to Final Four with, like, Denise and Ben and Sarah, like, let's just say that's the Final Four.
Yeah.
He's gonna, like, if, let's say, Denise wins immunity, she's gonna have Ben go up against Tony, knowing full well that Ben will send Tony home in a fire-making challenge.
Yeah.
Like, that's the only reason Ben exists, is to potentially take out the biggest threat at Final Four and then be, like, stomped on at Final Tribal.
So take Tony out of the equation. Who out of the other 4 that are still in the game? Forget anybody coming back from EOE or anything like that. Who out of the 4 stands the best chance of winning?
I have an answer, and it's going to surprise people, because if you know how I feel about this one, Survivor, it's going to shock you that I'm going to say Michelle. And here's why.
Let's hear it.
She made everyone feel great.
Yeah.
She has always voted in the minority for the most part. She has not done any wrong to people. She has tried to help people. They just don't fucking listen.
Yeah.
True.
And if you don't, like, if you're willing to, like, go to bat and go to bat and go to bat, and they see, oh, if we had just listened to Michelle, we would still be here. They're gonna, I would say a plurality would vote Michelle to win. I'm not saying I don't think anyone's gonna get a majority unless it's, like, Tony gets to the end with, like, Ben and whoever the EOE person is.
Yeah.
Then Tony might, like, sweep the board. But I think it's gonna be a plurality.
I actually totally agree with you, Matt, and you're, like, really talking me into the idea of Michelle being the second best player left of the season. I actually had written down on my notes, once Michelle hugged Nick goodbye, once he got voted out, I thought to myself, Michelle has a lot of friends sitting on that jury.
Sure does.
And Matt, you saying like all Michelle needs to say is like, I tried helping you guys out and you didn't listen to me. That is exactly how Sandra won Heroes versus Villains.
Well, that's how Sandra won Pearl. That's how Sandra won Pearl Islands. That's how Sandra won Heroes versus Villains.
Yeah.
I tried to help you. You were too stubborn to take my help.
Yep.
Totally.
Look where it got you, and look where it got me.
Does that make Tony the Russell Hantz of the season?
Yes.
Ooh, that's an interesting proposition.
Tony could run into a bad situation if Michelle is sitting next to him, because Tony has the blood is all over Tony's hands.
Yeah,
and
so Oh, sorry. Continue.
Well, I think there are some people on the edge of extinction who are not happy with Tony. They just don't want to give someone else the win if they don't feel like they deserve it. And I think Michelle has the social capital to make sure she deserves it.
It's an interesting thing that you bring that up, because tonight was the first time, and I'm fairly certain it was Tony who said this, that they talked about this is winners at war and we don't want goats at the end.
Yeah, he said Michelle is not a goat. And he was at the top of the second round. He has a confessional where he's saying, I'm more scared of Michelle than anybody else.
I think he's right to assume that. Or be like that.
Yeah.
But like all of the plans in this episode before Michelle won her immunity, like the Jeremy vote, Michelle was not the name. It was Jeremy, Nick, Ben. And then we swing it around. It's still like Denise or Nick.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Michelle won immunity, but she was not being talked about as the person who needs to go.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Well, okay, so Green Tea in the chat. Also, hi to everybody in the chat. Sorry that we just jumped right in.
Sorry.
You here. We're so thankful that you're
we have like Jared, Kevin, Joseph, Nate, Supriano. I'm sorry if I'm pronouncing names wrong. Isabel, Green Tea. I love green tea. I'm drinking green tea right now. Devin, Rory, just all these great people.
Allison is spy shacking it from the chat as well.
Yes, Allison is in the spy nest, looking down, using her McDonald's Wi-Fi to stay in the chat with us. So,
something that Green Tea points out is he's talking about Natalie has more friends. Yes, I mean if the EOE person comes in, obviously they're going to have more friends on the thing. But we're talking strictly about people who are still left in the game without pretend like there wasn't an EOE person. Pretend that Tony's not going to the end. I mean, we don't know for sure that Tony's going to the end. It just seems like that. Who were the other people that stand a good chance? I completely agree with your points about Michelle, and I honestly think a really interesting, very different dynamic of a final three would be Tony, Michelle, and Denise, because they played three very, very, very different games. Michelle has exactly all the points that you brought up. She has not been on the right side of the vote. She has a lot of friends in the jury. And she has done a couple of things right that make it like her an endearing, like those are endearing points to point to her game. But you're right. She has that Sandra kind of win. I see Denise as having like a lot of really flashy, incredible moves, but then also these like really subliminal moves. She can talk about tonight's tribal council as absolutely being like, I knew that if I played myself up as a martyr, that nobody's been doing an easy vote, and I wanted to take advantage of that. So I was playing a game there too. I think that she can bring up some different things here. She has not played anywhere near a perfect game. I love Denise. She's not played anywhere near a perfect game. I see her as almost like if you're talking about heroes versus villains, she hasn't played the Parvati game, but she would have the Parvati role in that final three.
Well, she kind of has played the Parvati-esque game in the sense that since we got to like the merge, no one wants to work with Denise.
That's true.
She's there. She exists. But no one's like, I'm going to the end with Denise, because like they're not going to go to the end with her because she took out Sandra. And like that is like a great sell point.
Totally. But how has she made it this far? And I guess that's the other point too, is like, I mean, it was so everybody made this big deal at the merge feast and like those confessionals being like, oh, it's good to know that Denise has a resume. And then instantly things got turned around. They started looking at other people. And it even took the obvious vote outs have not happened. They didn't take out Tyson immediately after he got back. That would have been an obvious vote for me. First of all, it's Tyson. How do you not vote Tyson out if you have an opportunity? Second of all, he just came back into the game. Why wouldn't you vote him out? So I really think that would be such an interesting final three. My gut tells me that just based off of what we've seen from an edit, I think Michelle's getting to that final 3. I think that she might be somebody, if it's not Tony, because I don't think Tony will take her to the final 3. I don't know if she wins a fire making challenge. I don't know what, but I think that she gets there by stumbling over the line. I don't think that it's an easy path for her.
So out of this, this Denise, Michelle, Tony final 3 idea, call me crazy, but I think Tony does the worst in final tribal council performance out of these 3 people. I think if anybody's a really good talker besides Kim Bettina, it's going to be Denise Stapley.
Therapist?
Yeah, right, exactly. No, but that is like seriously like such a good skill for Survivor. And Michelle friggin' beat Aubrey in a final tribal council, her winning season.
She knew how to point out everything in the jury. She knew who was in the jury, and she knew how to speak to every single person on that jury to get them to vote for her. 100%. It helped that they were pissed at Aubrey too. But.
Yeah.
And if Tony goes to the end with that particular final 3, neither of these women are woo. Like they're not. Like Tony's winning was against woo. Yes, Tony played a great game in Cagayan, like not knocking that, but he still had woo at the end.
Yeah.
No matter who he goes to the end with of this group, he's not going to I don't think he's going to out-talk Sarah. I don't think he's going to out-talk Denise. I don't think he's going to out-talk Michelle. He might be able to out-talk Ben, but I think Ben takes him out at 4 if he lets Ben get there.
I would love to see a Tony and Ben fire making challenge.
I think that is what they're setting it up for, because Tony mentioned Ben is a threat. I know Tyler's dying inside.
Already.
I am just so like. That recap at the end, a lot of people are like shitting on it online, but like I feel like it really made me zoom out on instead of like complaining about Tony, complaining about Ben. I feel like it's really made me zoom out of just like how amazing it is that we got this season to begin with, and just how epic it has been from start to finish. So that was my thought. Like it just it's we're so down to the wire here. And it's going to be such an exciting finish. I'm happy, regardless, except for like a Ben win. I'm happy.
A point in the chat that like caught my attention.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
It's in this discussion, and it's Rory's comment. I don't think I can click it.
It's who?
But when he talks about that Michelle will get the votes over her.
Yeah,
Denise's biggest move is pre-merge, which, as we've seen in Sequester, doesn't win over jury very well, in my opinion.
I thought about this.
I think if this was a different season where there was like a pre-jury phase and not everyone is on the jury, if you stick it out, I would say that comment holds true.
Yeah.
But because everyone is still there, and it was fucking Sandra she took out,
and the fact that Sandra then quit,
that's gonna hold more
she
weight.
basically got out the only person who
Sandra
quit
was
the
like
game.
peace.
So I agree with that, Matthew. And here's the other thing too. It would have been one thing if that was all she did in the game. But as Tyler at some point in this evening will show our scores and such, Denise, I think, is probably still the biggest point getter with our things. So she has gotten fire tokens from people. She has made people more than probably her and Michelle are the people who've gotten the most fire tokens as people left the game, which shows that they have great social equity with these people.
Yeah.
She also has won 2 individual immunities. She has been able to go back and forth to whoever is going to keep her alive in this game. Even if her name is coming up, she plays it cool. And she like does things like she did tonight. I knew the moment they started talking about her being like, oh no, like I'll buy rice and that kind of thing. She started revealing this plan. I was like, I'm getting flashbacks to how she acted when she got Sandra out. These are wonderful, wonderful social moves that she does. So I would agree that if she can articulate that well, and I have no qualms that she'd be able to do so, that I think that the jury would absolutely respect the shit out of her game. I just don't know, is that the game-winning game when you're stacked up against some of these other people? I don't know. It's we'll have to see what happens.
Yeah, and we have
I think
to
it all depends upon.
Go ahead, Matt.
It all just depends upon who. I think it all depends upon how people feel once they get to that final tribal council. They've had actual food in them and not just a scoop of rice on a leaf. Because once all these people are fed and happy, they may be more receptive to other ways to play the game. I think if they had to go back to the edge and like starve until the finale, I think Tony would win hands down. Like if it was Tony versus Denise versus Michelle, because they were like, Tony played the most aggressive game, Tony wins. But once they're like full and happy, I think Tony's advantage kind of slowly chips down.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And let's not forget, like, Michelle won immunity tonight. That's definitely not something to just kind of gloss over to. Beth, I really like your point about how who is given the fire tokens is a really great way to quantitate, like, in numbers, like how good of a social game you're having. Correct me if I'm wrong, but has Tony received any fire tokens from anybody that's been eliminated?
I feel like he did in the pre-merge. Am I wrong?
I don't think so.
I don't know.
I don't think so.
I know that Sarah
he's gotten advantages, but he's never gotten tokens.
As people left. You're right.
People in the chat are saying no. So I don't know. That's definitely something to consider. Let's talk about Nick and his decision to give the disadvantage to Ben. What did you guys think about that?
I loved it. He just didn't do enough with it. I literally said in our chat, so Tyler, Allison, and I have a chat throughout travel. But I said that if you want to cause chaos, the easy thing to do is to give it to Tony, because obviously everybody wants to target Tony. In terms of like they want to, but they're not going to. In order to cause paranoid chaos, Ben's the most paranoid person out there. You have to really sell it when you get back. Like, ooh, well, then you have to try to put something in his ear that won't get back to certain people. Be like, I want you to fully know that before this, like I was talking with Michelle and Denise, and we were like, if the four of us can come together, we're the foursome that could really make it far. Otherwise, Tony and Sarah are just going to steam plow us. So we were all thinking like you would be the best person to win immunity today. Just say something like that and try to plant it in his head that maybe Sarah and Tony aren't with him. Not be like, isn't it sketchy that blah, blah. Just literally say things like that. Let it be and let him sit with it, because he's the type of person that overthinks things like that.
Go ahead, Matt.
I will jump in on I think Ben was also the right choice, because Ben hasn't gotten stuff from the edge. So like his question at the end was like, before he got the disadvantage, like maybe it came from someone here, maybe it came from someone on the edge. Who knows where this all came from? If you give it to Tony, he's going to know it came from Michelle or Nick, most likely. Giving it to Ben is like, anyone could have done this to Ben. Anyone could have done this to me, because he does not have that experience with how the edge works and how advantages and disadvantages have been handed out.
That's a really good point, Matthew. I 100% agree. And I think that Sarah also would have known that it probably was coming from Michelle, because Michelle and her had that conversation already about like trying to pit them against each other. So that was exactly my point. I was sitting there. We had an open discussion forum with my parents, and they were all like, my dad was like, should have given it to Tony. Mom's like, should have given it to Sarah. And I was like, no, Ben's the best person to give it to. And I was so happy when he did, because for those reasons, he just didn't do enough to capitalize on that, or at least from what we saw. Maybe he did, and it just didn't pan out or wasn't good television or whatever, because it just ultimately led to his elimination anyway. But I don't know.
Yeah, I agree. But I think that Nick has been pretty delusional with his placement in the game this entire season. We even heard it from him tonight. He said, I'm in the best position in the entire game. Michelle is here because of me. And that just goes to show like how misted he's totally been by Nick, or I'm sorry, by Tony.
Yeah.
This entire time.
He's listed himself for
right.
Yeah. I was about to say, I don't think this is Tony's miss on Nick. I think this is the thing called the delusion, and it has affected Nick's brain.
Yeah.
Because Tony didn't say, Nick, you're in a great spot.
Right.
Nick just perceives himself to be in a great spot.
Yeah.
And perception is reality, except for to the world around you who will tell you you're wrong.
Yeah.
Right. I would also say, too, that I did wonder, we had quite a lot of discussion at the first tribal council about, it was really like a therapeutic tribal council. Like, how are people feeling? What was it like when you left your last games? Blah, blah, blah. Nick had like 18 months in between filming these two. I wonder really what that was like. Like, are you a little bit more into your abilities 18 months after winning? Well, actually a year after winning, but 18 months after like playing than you were
I
like
actually
10 years ago.
I have a really interesting thought that I talked with my friend Simon about on the phone, because I was thinking about this. Tony and Sarah are two people besides Jeremy who was voted out tonight. They're two of the only people at this like tail end of the season that have previously been blindsided and voted out of this game. And I think that that's really, really powerful stuff. I think that it really teaches you how to never be comfortable, to never think that you're like totally good, totally safe. And I think that that is really a disadvantage when you look at Nick, when you look at Ben, when you look at people that are so fixated on just like their current position, and they don't zoom out and see everybody else's perspective and like how they could totally blindside you. I think it's really proving to be a lot more beneficial than you realize. And we even saw Tyson say, like, listen, like I've been voted out a few times. Like I've had this song and dance before. I get it. And it really makes him a perceptive Survivor player. I don't know. What do you guys think about that?
I know I definitely agree with everything you just said, for hands down.
I want to say
that's like exciting for me. I'm sorry. I like an exciting answer from me. I mean,
no, it's okay. I was just like really excited when I was thinking about that. I just want to give a shout out to Valencia. She's such a sweetheart. She tweets us every week and says that she watches our show. So hi, Valencia. Hope you're doing well and safe out there. But yeah, I don't know. I had that thought and I was like, you know, it's really powerful stuff to be previously blindsided, especially in a season of all winners. I don't know, just something to think about.
I thought it was interesting too that Tony's the one that took Go ahead, Matthew. Go ahead.
I was the only person who has like kind of a level of experience to like Tony and Sarah is Denise, because she went to every tribal council during her season. So she experienced these blind sides. Because Denise was not always like on the upswing of everything during her season. Yeah. So she definitely got
that's a really good
experience
point.
with like blind sides and
that's a really good point too, because that in that sense that she can also really identify with almost the Michelle side of things, which is that Michelle has not been on the right side of the votes. And Denise was like on the right side of the votes a lot, but she wasn't sometimes either. And so if you can make your way through an entire game, going to tribal council every single time, having to switch tribes, having your tribe completely decimated, all those different kinds of things, even if you're on the right side of the votes, you feel like you're on the outs of the game, which is how Michelle has been playing too. So that's why I also really like the idea of Denise sitting next to anybody at the final 2 or 3, because she can really speak to what their games have been like and how her game is better. And if there's anything that wins me over in a final 2 or final 3, if I'm ever in a jury, by the way, and you want to win my vote, I don't care what game it is, you have to be able to say why your game is better than the other people sitting around you. And it needs to be genuine, and you need to own your shit. So you can't just be like, these guys played great too, but I did this. No, tell me why your game is better than this person. Show me that you have an understanding of what the other people around you were doing in this game and how you maneuvered and made yourself better. Even if you have to own a mistake or two. I stumbled here, I made up for it, but I made up for it better than these two made up for their mistakes. You got to own that shit.
Let's see. No, I totally agree. That reminds me of like Todd in Survivor China, and how like masterful his final tribal performance was. How he like his biggest adversaries. He said like he didn't like deny that he had to take out people. He was like, I had to take you out because you were an amazing player and my biggest threat moving forward. And that's such a great way to like butter somebody up, and also like give yourself the responsibility of saying like, I'm the one that took you out. I'm the one that made the move to get you out.
Yeah, it's also very Parvati in fans versus favorites, where Parvati, but her strategy was both, you were such a big threat that we had to make this move, and it was a big blindside, but there was also like a lot of flirting in it too, where she was just like, well, you're like really hot, and I had to like, like she did that like with Natalie.
Yeah.
But no, I think that's a great point.
Let's see. One last thing I wanted to talk about before we talk about like Edge of Extinction speculation, and then like the whole Denise stuff. We want to touch on at the end, is we check in once again on Cops R Us with Sarah and Tony. They say that like their alliance is like 6 years old now, going back to Cagayan, and I really like how like Tony kind of glossed over the fact that he blindsided Sarah. He's like, listen, I had to do it, so I won, and then you won the next time, so we're all even now, right? And I'm like, that's not really how it works, Tony, but like it's working on Sarah. Right after that, we hear from confessional she wants to go to the end with Ben and Tony. Like that is her objective, and it makes me wonder like how this player played such a masterful game in Game Changers, and I don't understand what the disconnect is there, and I need like a Sarah like retrospective like after this is done. That's what I need.
I think I know what it is, but Henning, go ahead.
I think for Sarah, like why she's like on the Tony and Ben train is because she's very confident she can run over Ben socially. And I think she can. And I think she wants Tony in her pocket because Tony will always be the bigger target than Sarah. So the longer she can keep Tony with her, that's great for her game because the attention is on Tony. The attention hasn't been on Sarah when it should be on both of them.
Yeah.
Sarah's like other situation is, I think Tony is going to flip on Sarah at like 5 or 6. I think this is what we were foreshadowing in this like, oh, I betrayed you and you betrayed me and now we're even, right? One of them is getting stabbed in the back and I see Tony taking the knife and jabbing into Sarah's back. If like Idlegeddon happens and it's like Denise versus Sarah, Tony's going to stab Sarah hard in the back.
See, I don't know if that'll happen just because he's so distrusting of Denise now that he overheard Denise doesn't want to go to the final 3 and like Sarah's still on board to do so. But it would be interesting if Tony can talk with Denise ahead of time, because what we've seen is Tony's the one that's able to go, you know what? I trust what you're saying now that I've talked with you. Let's go against this person now. And if he were to do that with Denise to go against Sarah, then I would agree. But we'll have to wait and see how that works out. And I also think that the variable of the EOE person could be playing a role into that too.
Yeah.
But the point I wanted to make about Sarah and Tony is there was a secret scene, and this is why I'm really upset that it wasn't in the show. There was a secret scene between Kim and Sarah where they were talking about how Sarah was feeling really low about how after Game Changers, everybody voted for her to win because they thought that she had the best social strategy, but they all thought that she was a shit person at the end of the day. And she thought she was making genuine connections with them, but she was still using those genuine connections as gameplay. And she's hesitant, I think, in this game to get those two roads mixed up, because I do think it really affected her afterwards. So my assumption is, I think she's being misted by Tony, or like the idea that like he's the best person to go with because she can trust him and all those different kinds of things, because she's really trying to put all the eggs in the basket of making those genuine connections without making people feel like she's a shit person. And if you can keep Tony in the game, he will always make you feel like shit more than she will.
Yeah,
I think that's what it is. Even if it's a subconscious thing, I think that's what she's probably going through.
I agree.
I like all of your theories, and I have a separate theory, but I think all 3 of these things are true. Green Sea says Sarah thinks she can beat them with social game. I think this is what Sarah is banking on ultimately. Last week we saw with the fashion show thing, Sarah says in confessional, Tony doesn't want to participate in this fashion show. We work differently. We play the game differently. He's like crazy strategy, always at 100%, like always like running around like a lunatic. And I really focus on these social bonds. And we saw it tonight too. We saw Sarah convincing Ben that Nick needs to go, but she took it a step further in a really masterful way, right? Like she said, she planted the idea in Ben's head to make Ben think it was his idea to take out Nick. And then what do we see? The very next scene that they cut to is Ben going up to Tony and saying, "Listen, I think we got to take out Nick tonight. I think that's what needs to happen." I think that this is what Sarah is banking on, but I just don't think Edge of Extinction is the season to do it. These people have been sitting on this deserted island for like over 30 days now. Yeah.
Come on.
And their only source of entertainment is these tribal councils. They don't see these really flashy or not flashy, but like under the radar maneuvering socially at tribal council. And I think that it's going to be in her detriment to keep somebody who's like really like all these like theatrics at tribal. You know, like last week, like when everybody was whispering, who was the one person that was sitting down? It was Sarah. Like she wasn't like part of like any of like the craziness that was happening at all. And I don't think that that's really the best way to think about it.
Even Denise got up and she hated it. She was over it.
Yeah, right.
I wanted to just quick. Can I like toss something on your thoughts?
Yeah,
Tyler,
yeah,
before
of
we
course.
jump?
Yeah,
I think the other thing with like Sarah is the jury, like this is all they get to see is like tribal council, and that is their entertainment, and they're not going to potentially award someone who's not like playing full force. And I think the problem with being aligned with Tony is it's hard to take that credit away from him.
100%.
Like, will the jury be like, yes, Sarah did this, or Sarah did this, but Tony did more of this?
I think you're 100% right.
I think that's going to be to her detriment.
Yeah,
if
absolutely.
she goes to the end with Tony and Ben, is because Tony is out there, and he says, "I'm here. I do."
I think that is, and the person who benefits the most from this, if she makes it to the final three, is Michelle, because Michelle can sit back and say, "I told you so. I told you so. I told you so." And that shows that I had a better handle on this game than Tony or you, hands down. So you need to give me your vote. So it'll be interesting to see how Sarah handles that if she's on the jury and not in the final three.
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Like, why vote for Sarah when you could vote for Tony, or you could vote for the opposition of Tony? You know, what does a vote for Sarah accomplish in any of that?
Because if it's Sarah, Tony, and Michelle is Sandra, Sarah is Parvati, and Tony is Russell. 100%. And they're not going to give the win to Sarah, who basically enabled Tony.
Yeah.
Like Parvati enabled Russell.
Yeah.
Yep.
And
I 100% agree. So who do you guys think is coming back from Edge of Extinction?
It's got to be Natalie, right?
I think so.
It's got to be Natalie.
No.
Who's it going to be, Matthew?
Because watching the first challenge and seeing someone with like Yule who had no advantages and no nothing, just because Natalie has 3 advantages does not mean she's going to win that challenge. If anything, I think it's going to make her too comfortable.
I can see that.
Knowing that you have to overcome all these other obstacles to get to the end of that challenge and win it. Like they talked about at Tribal Council, you're taking your foot off the gas because you know, I have 3 advantages, I should be great. No one has more advantages than me because no one had more fire tokens than me. I had my giant jar of peanut butter. I have my idol. I feel great about the world. It's going to be someone I feel like who knows they are going to have to fight. I think about Yule. I think about Adam. Those are my like 2, because Yule almost won the first one with no advantages. And Adam's just scrappy enough that Lady Luck could just fall in his lap and be like, here, Adam, here's your way back into the game. Just like,
if you're talking edit-wise, it was blaringly obvious to me that Natalie's the person, because they spent so much time, either because they had to or because they wanted
in, like,
to.
The season recap, they made like a huge thing about like
Natalie. Yeah. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. Not because I'm sorry, I should have made it clear. When I was talking about the season overview, they spent a lot of time talking about Natalie and like showing Natalie and all that kind of stuff. Because there was, for a long time, it was Natalie's Edge of Extinction. And then as soon as like Rob got there, you never really heard from her. And then she didn't make it back in. And then Tyson came back, and they haven't spent that much time on Edge, which I personally am thankful for, because it allows us more time for the people who are in the game. But when they did focus on the Edge, who was the people finding all the advantages and extorting people for money and doing all the stuff? Natalie was almost always with it, as well as Parvati. Yes. So those were the 2 people that I was like, edit-wise, that could be something interesting. The other person who I thought had a really interesting tribal or confessional tonight from the Edge was Amber, who
I was like, why is Amber getting all of this time all of a sudden?
So
Yeah.
That scared me to death, and I was like, if Amber comes back into this game, no.
Like
I mean, I think Amber's a great person. Don't get me wrong, but she is not going to be the person who shifts this game away from the status quo.
No. To me, that was more of a like, we were so lucky to get Amber back to Survivor after all this time, and we just really want to bookend her Survivor experience and how it's like totally changed her life over the years. That's what I got.
Why I also think the edit is reflecting a Natalie loss.
Sure.
It's because Survivor likes to build up people to like look like they're going to win, and like Natalie is going to be like this close to winning, and then she's going to lose. And it's going to be like emotionally heartbreaking for the viewer base because we've now built Natalie up to be the queen, and she's going to lose to someone.
That's a really good point.
Like, because that's what Survivor does. They like to like give you this obvious reason that it's going to be Natalie, and Natalie's agony of defeat moment is going to be like, I'm calling it now. Natalie loses by like 3 seconds.
Yeah, so she'll be like really close then.
Oh yeah, I think she'll have a chance,
But I also think that they chose to include some things from Tyson about Natalie tonight that were really powerful in Natalie's case from like an edit point of view, or for like to give you an idea of how the jury would potentially think about Natalie coming back in the game. Yep. They could have just said, hey, Natalie bought a second idol and decided to give it to Tyson out of the goodness of her heart. Well, she did it for 2 reasons. One, if she makes it back into the game, jury vote, no problem, right there. The other reason why she did it is simply because she had, so actually, I want to take a step back. Jury vote was the only reason why I could think of that, right? Because why Tyson and not someone like Danny? Why not somebody who was on edge as long as you, Amber, or something like that, right? You went for somebody who also has a good chance of coming back into the game. Tyson already came back into the game. Will he do it again? That'll be a wonderful, he'll immediately get voted out if he comes back into the game. Let's give him another advantage and really shake up the game. That's the reason why she like really did that, I think.
Yeah.
But why spend so much time talking about it?
I've also noticed Tyson is the person who foreshadows a lot of stuff in Survivor this season. And the 2 people he's talked about on Edge like the most have been Natalie and they have been Adam. Because like he did that whole hyping Adam thing when like the family came visit, and like there was definitely those hints that Adam was coming back. And I think honestly, I think it's going to be Adam versus Natalie on like a puzzle.
All right, I want to give my 2 cents here.
Go, Tyler, sorry.
So Matt, you said that. And I'm just totally playing devil's advocate here because this is all just like stupid speculation, right? At the end of the day, concrete evidence. At the end of this day, does this really matter? No. But you said that like Natalie's getting like too comfortable, yada yada yada. Whenever in Natalie's Survivor career has she ever felt comfortable in the game? This is how she plays best, is playing scrappy. Even after she wins her 10th fire token, she goes out there and she beats everybody to get that the fire tokens today. I totally 1000% think it's Natalie, and Natalie giving that idol to Tyson. It's a lot bigger picture than just her connection with Tyson. I think it's her really solidifying to the edge of extinction people, whoever comes back, vote for us in the end. That's exactly how Chris won Survivor Edge of Extinction. He listened to the plan that everybody laid out of like, if you want to get to the end and deserve the vote to win, even though you're voted out, you have to do this, you have to do that. You have to take yourself into fire making against Rick Devens, yada, yada, yada. I think that this is Natalie's way of solidifying them as a unit, as just a collective like juggernaut of competition against this really powerful being left in the game with Tony Vlachos. I think that's really how they're all thinking about it.
Do you think that?
Sorry.
No. I think those are real. I mean, I agree with you 100%. Do you guys think it was smart for her to do that for Tyson, or to buy another immunity idol to bring in so she had 2 so that she could give one to someone to buy?
I wonder if there was a rule.
I don't think she can, because I think she said, I bought one for Tyson because I couldn't buy another one.
I was thinking there might be a rule.
I thought I heard her say that. I could be wrong. Someone can go back and watch the edit.
I think that would have been awesome.
I think her smartest move would have been getting like the peanut butter, getting the idol for Tyson, and maybe like buying an idol for another person. Like,
who do you think she would have bought it for?
Jeremy.
If she could.
Like,
no,
I'm
like
shocked.
someone still in the game. Someone's still in the game.
Oh, I was just thinking she would buy, like, use basically all of your fire tokens because you can't use them after this.
Right.
They're like dead. Just buy as many hidden immunity idols as you can and spread it out to your friends. Like, here, Jeremy, have an idol. Here, Tyson, have an idol.
Does she really need to work on Jeremy's vote though?
But having Jeremy in the just relinking that bond, because who knows who
fair.
Jeremy became close to while she's been sitting on the edge of fucking extinction from.
That's
my point. So if she was allowed to bring it sounds like the chat's confirming what Matthew said, which is that she was not allowed to buy more than one idol for herself to come into the game. So yeah, Rory confirmed that. If she was allowed to, I think the obvious person she would have rewarded with it would have been Michelle. And said, here you go. You also get an idol.
Yeah.
Because Michelle, her, and Jeremy were the first original three. She knows that Michelle and Jeremy were close. Michelle gave gave him an advantage. I think that she would absolutely be like, here, Michelle, you also get an idol. Yeah. If she was allowed to do that. Obviously, she can't. So yeah, that's a really good point. I'm really happy that she did that. Did she have leftover tokens after that?
I don't think so, right?
Yeah, no, I think that it was just the peanut butter, the 3 advantage, the peanut butter, the 3 advantages.
She bought her 3 advantages. She bought another idol. She bought a peanut butter. So that's only 7 of 14 that I can account for.
She had 13 total, right? I think that's what we.
She had 14.
Oh,
I thought she had 14.
Yeah.
And so she spent 7 that I saw.
So how many were advantages?
7 more.
One advantage
Each
was how
advantage
many?
was 1 token.
Okay.
Just 1. Each advantage was 1 token.
And how much was an idol?
Idol is 3.
So that's 6.
Idol is 3.
And then
peanut butter.
What's 3? I think.
No, I think it's 1 on the edge. Like all of food was like 1 on the edge. Actually, I don't remember what the new menu.
14 got 8 for Nick's advantage.
Right.
Yeah. Like,
so she had a surplus. So I agree. Why wouldn't she go around and just be like, and you get an idol, and you get an idol? Just be friggin' Oprah at this point.
Yeah.
Buy the favor with the people who are going to be your jury if you make it back into the game. But yeah, she had 6 left. That's what I thought.
She had 6 left. That's 2 idols. Like, you get an idol and you get an idol. Everyone gets an idol.
Once Upon an Island, they're a really great channel. Definitely check them out. And also check your DMs on Instagram. I want you to come on one of our shows, please.
We would love that.
Yeah. So one last thing about Amber's segment on Edge of Extinction. I really want to talk about that for a second. Because like I said earlier, like it's a really nice bookend, but it also it made me really think back to Kelly Wentworth and her last segment that she got on Edge of Extinction right before the finale. It was so like emotional, and like they really spent good time on it. And I thought it was a really beautiful moment, and probably the first time I've like really smiled at an Edge of Extinction segment in this entire season. She said she really enjoyed the peaceful time with her husband. Like she's gonna miss the simplicity of it all. I'm just like so thankful that we got to see Amber back on Survivor. I think it's what a joy that was to see her play again.
They gave Amber the confessional that they've given Ethan the entirety of the season, which is to check in with him when they're at Edge, because everybody wanted to hear from Ethan. And we didn't get to hear that much from Amber. And we know that the producers were so happy that Amber came along too. So I think that this was a great way to honor the fact that Amber and Rob, whether you love them or you hate them, they are the only married couple that have won. They met because of Survivor. They're back here. They've been on the Edge collectively together for the majority of the game. And that's a wonderful way to kind of wrap up, because the nice thing about this, if I were on the Edge, right? And by the way, why are the 4 of them climbing a mountain before they have to do a competition? I sat back and I was like, you can see the sunset from the ground. You know that, right? From the beach, you could just watch it there, or the sunrise. But anyway, I got thinking about it, and I just sat back and I was like, you know what? Think about how much of just an accomplishment staying on the Edge of Extinction that long is. If you don't make it into the game, yeah, it's heartbreaking, but then think about, oh my gosh, I get to go to Ponderosa. I get to have a shower. I get to eat properly. Yeah. My efforts out here in this game for never quitting or anything like that, I get to be rewarded with. And I still get to be around these people who, are my competitors, but they've become more than that throughout this experience.
I really hope they do like Ponderosa segments for everybody. Once the challenge is over, like I hope Survivor on CBS just has like a huge dump of like all these videos on their YouTube channel after it's done. I would love to hear like all of their final thoughts, like we did Amber tonight. So if you're watching this show later, please comment and let us know who you think is coming back from Edge of Extinction. One last thing we want to talk about here is how me and Denise are now tattoo forearm buddies. And it's hard to like turn my forearms like inward, but yeah, I thought it was. Denise just like is what a gem in the Survivor universe. She says like, I'm done dealing with things like I have been and getting upset about the process, and she writes endure and let go on her forearms just as like good visual reminders to herself to not lose herself in all of the chaos and toxicity of it all. And I know, Beth, you want to talk about how that's like applicable to things that happened last week, so I'll let you take the floor.
Yeah, I want to take a soapbox moment because I like to talk anyway, so why not? No, but I do want to take something seriously. We at this podcast try very, very hard not to ever make any kind of personal comments about the players of this game or any other game. We comment on what we see. We see gameplay. We may not always agree with it. We may not always like all the players as players. As much as we might shit on Ben's game, Ben fought for our country. He's a hero. He's obviously an outstanding human being. He's obviously a fantastic father. And we've seen someone be very vulnerable in front of us who probably, this is not something that's easy. This is not easy for anybody. And what I find incredibly disheartening, especially after the last couple of weeks, is seeing this community become really, really toxic and attack people for the politics that they're not even pushing on their social media, let alone the show that they're on, that they're pushing labels onto people as personal labels about who they are as people based off of one or two comments on the show that aren't at all driven from hate. One of which, for the example, was Denise last week telling Jeremy that she was done. And it was clearly that she was done within the context of scrambling, the whispering, all that kind of stuff at Tribal. You saw her tell Jeff, not even like 3 seconds earlier, that she doesn't like this, that this is not how she likes to play the game, that she feels like it takes away something from the game. And she got up and she talked, but she and Sarah were really just sitting down for most of the time. And it was really disheartening for me to see so many people attack her, tell her that she was racist online when that couldn't be farther from the truth. I believe in calling out racism. I believe in calling out hate speech. I believe in all of that stuff. But I don't believe in projecting that stuff onto players when there's not substantial evidence, especially if the players from the show themselves are not speaking out about it. And there's obviously a line where they can and they can't talk about certain things. So we need to maybe potentially wait and see what Jeremy's thoughts are about this afterwards. But ultimately, the idea that our community of huge Survivor fans are running people off of their personal pages to give us, after they've give us one of the best seasons of all time, a season that could never happen in any other competition reality show, is really disheartening. So I reached out to Denise on Facebook, and I just let her know that I felt so bad that the trolls were coming for her and her castmates. I said that it was frustrating, and that I said none of you deserve that, and I'm so sorry that you're putting up with it. And she actually took the time a couple days later to reach out to me. She sent me a very, very lengthy message. And she said if I wanted to share some of this, I could. I don't know if she knew that I'd talk about it on a podcast, so I'll limit some of the comments that she said just in case. She said, overall, there's so much, genuinely, there was so much love for the players out there, but there's so much negativity. I just had to make a choice, not just for me, but in support of all of us, hoping people know that my stepping back is not me looking for or trying to get support to justify anything, just setting the boundary to make it clear of what I'm willing to continue to step into. And we saw that happen tonight in tonight's episode. So I ask all of us to do better, even if we feel like we've been doing a good job and not criticizing people's personal gameplay. I task all of us to be respectful that we don't know these people as people. We know who they are in television, and to really do our best, regardless of how we might feel personally, to keep those comments to themselves. If they're not going to be helpful, they're hurtful.
Yeah,
so that's
exactly. Yeah, I totally agree. And, just thinking about how these like senseless like tweets that you like send off in frustration and don't think about it, how those can have like ripple effects to their life outside of Survivor and their ability to advance themselves in careers that they have earned their entire lives, all for just somebody being upset that their favorite got voted out and taking it the wrong way. And we just ask like to please just keep game and really think about these people as people instead of TV characters. It's so important, because if this shit continues, like nobody's going to want to apply for shows like this, and then we're not going to have an amazing show to talk about here. And that's what it's going to come down to. Like this cancel culture is gotten like way out of control, and it makes me feel really terrible for people like Denise, who have been so open with the fans this season, so active with, and so thankful for all of the support that she's had, and really reaching out to everybody to make sure that that they know that she's listening to them and reading everything. And we don't get that a lot out of Survivor players, and it's just so sad to see such a good thing spoiled like that for something so half-baked, you know?
Yeah, and I 100% agree. I would also like to point out, just because I know that I don't want to speak for Tyler or for Matthew, who happens to be on tonight while we're having a soapbox moment, or for Allison or anybody else, but we also recognize that we have, as white people or whatever, we have a certain level of privilege, right? Yeah. So that's why I'm saying we need to wait to hear what Jeremy's thoughts are on this, and not just go and project, obviously this was racist, for example. That's just a small example of what I'm talking about. Other people from the cast have been like run off social media because of who they voted for in 2016, even though they're not pushing that on their social media accounts. At least what I saw. I never saw that. They haven't mentioned it on the show or anything like that. And whether you agree with their politics or not, that is who they are as a person. That is not who they're projecting themselves on television. I think it's interesting to potentially know where people's political affiliations are, because it might give you some insight to how they think in a game situation. But they're not. But
that's all you should take it.
Exactly.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's it, unless like Matt, you had anything else to add. If not, we can move on to the brackets and stuff. But yeah, I mean, it's important to say.
The only thing I was going to talk about that was like, I know earlier in the season, like I as a viewer was very uncomfortable during like the Wendell and Michelle situation, and I definitely tried to comment like, this is making me uncomfortable from like seeing this on my TV perspective. Yeah. I think a lot of people like take those moments and they don't like just like chill. It's like, yes, this is my visceral reaction, but you don't need to take it like that next step further.
Right.
And I think that's what a lot of Survivor has become, is people are taking things just one step too far. If you just rein it back and like sleep on that thought, just sleep on it.
Right.
And if it's really bothering you the next morning, then tweet about it or Facebook about it or whatever. Just like give it a night.
Right.
Yep.
But anyway, thank you all for allowing me and Tyler and Matthew to share our thoughts. And this is, it hasn't sat well with me for a while now, for a few weeks, but I felt it important to share that, and I'm happy that Denise was able to reach out and share her thoughts as well.
Alrighty, well, let's move on to something exciting. It's important to talk about. I don't want to like downplay it at all or anything. So the first draft, wow, I guess Kim Mattina is a better talker than she is better draft picker, because she is the first one out. Sorry,
well,
Kim.
She technically still has 5 shots at getting someone back in.
Yada yada, yeah. That's true. That's fair. But you can say that for anybody. I'll give Allison props because she's not here tonight to gloat about it, but she has 3 people left going into the finale. Pretty impressive. There's no way Allison doesn't win this thing unless Alex pulls out a Hail Mary or an Edge of Extinction returnee. I don't know. I think it's I think Allison.
I don't know. After our conversation tonight, Michelle might win it. You never know.
And Joseph says,
I think I made a great case for Tyler. I think I gave you the case that you might still win.
Yeah, I
advocated for you tonight.
I mean, maybe that's like maybe that's my subconscious like hoping that Allison doesn't get to say, I picked the winner of the season once again. I'm the smartest person on this show. That's a terrible Southern accent. Sorry in advance to people that are listening to this. And then of course we have our draft with me and Beth. Man, she really raked in those points, make it rain points over here.
I did message Tyler about halfway through the show and I said, oh my God, Tyler, I'm so sorry that I'm decimating your points today.
Yeah. With the exciting thing is, like, I really think it's going to come down to the placement of all these people left. Because it's crazy. What do you think, Matt? Who do you think's gonna pull this out?
Just looking at also your EOE people, I think Beth has the majority of Beth's crew. I think could win EOE compared to yours. Like, I don't see Amber winning. I don't see Danny winning.
Yeah.
I don't see Sophie winning. So you're banking on Rob, Jeremy, and Tyson.
Yeah.
And Adam, where like Beth, I feel like any of her people could win. Well, obviously Sandra can't, but like all of those people have.
As much as I love that, yeah, I think that. So Tyler and I are trying to do two different bragging rights, right? So obviously we're doing it as a points-based thing. So whoever has the most points at the end will win. I think what we can ultimately have is that Tyler, if Tony wins, Tyler gets the winner of the season. So therefore he correctly drafted the winner, right? And we do give points, as you'll see at the bottom, for first place, second place, third place. But there are also points that come back into AOE. Will I actually finally be able to milk some points out of Natalie Anderson next week, as she had the entire season at 0? We don't know, and which is unfortunate because
thank God we gave like no points for like advantages won on Edge of Extinction.
That's what have you killed.
But that's exactly the point. Like, I think that this has been a really great way for me to kind of keep track of how well people are doing with the social relationships of the game, finding and playing advantages, winning immunities, all those different kinds of things. Because if you look at it on paper from the edit, there's no doubt that Tony and Sarah have played really great masterful games, right? And you might go, oh yeah, Denise is kind of there, or like Ben gets a lot of confessionals, and oh, what has Michelle really done? But the points don't lie here. These are things that they have done. Obviously, we've put an arbitrary system to them, but it kind of shows you like what the people are doing in the game, even if the edit isn't properly showcasing everything. So that's what I think is really cool. I think that Tyler and I have we'll be able to have two different bragging rights at the end of this. Potentially.
I think so. I think Beth, this is not a winner take all bracket. It's whoever has the most points at the end. So I think Beth, you are taking the win here. I think it's going to be by a narrow margin because I ultimately do think Tony wins. But what an exciting finish! I could not have written this any better for like a photo finish here at the end. And
this was a lot of fun.
I need to pick brackets while high more often is my lesson learned here.
And I need to take advantage of you picking brackets while high more often.
Yes, exactly. But yeah, I think that wraps it up. Sorry for a little bit.
Next time, just check me in and I'll balance the scale out for the two of you.
Wait, what did you say, Matt?
What did you say, Matt? Oh no, did we lose Matthew at the last moment?
All right. Well,
I think we'll have to wrap it up just given the time.
Yeah. Well, thanks for everybody for joining us. I know it's a little bit longer of a show than usual, but we're really coming down the stretch here with an exciting thing.
I just can't hear.
Oh, sorry, Matthew.
I can hear everything. You just can't see me.
So real quick before we go, we always do our predictions. I've said I officially predict Tony will win the season. Beth, who do you think is our ultimate winner here?
I think Tony will win this season. I think that from the moment that he had his Tony runs the game episode, it's been written in the stars. I'm so proud, even of Ben, even of Michelle, of these final 5. This is a hard season. This was all winners. This had the edge of extinction. This had fire tokens. This had the kitchen sink. And these people all proved that they can maneuver a game in their own individual ways. Some of them played very differently. Some of them played very similarly to their last games. And I'm proud to be a fan. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. Matthew, who do you think is ultimately winning the season? He's here. Well, he said that he can hear us, so if you can hear us, Matt, message us, and we'll say who you're...
I can hear you.
Oh, there you go.
Let me...
Oh, Matthew, you're like robotic. That's why.
Magic finger.
I don't...
Yeah, I love being a robot. I stand being a robot. Here, I'll message Tyler.
Matt, just tell us who you think the winner is.
I think he's typing it.
I sent you on Facebook.
Oh.
I'm taking it.
Oh, Michelle.
Okay.
So Matthew says Michelle.
All right, cool. Well, we have 2 for Tony. I know Allison is thinking it's Tony too, so we can safely say that. Matt says it's going to be Michelle. We'll see, but definitely join us next week. So next week we're not going live after the finale because it's going to be freaking late. Everybody's going to fall asleep in the middle of our show. But to make up for it, the next day we have a special guest. Brent Wogelmott is joining
Potentially.
us.
It's not 100% yet. It's a tentative yes. We might have Brent Wogelmott with us.
Okay, all right, potentially, tentatively. And we also might have a really cool special postseason wrap up with a special guest as well. Beth, is that locked in, or should we keep
that one is locked in for sure? Brent is still, we're just ironing out some details for next week. But next Saturday, the 16th at 7:00 p.m. Eastern, we will be going live with Tommy Bracco from season 21 of Big Brother, who will do a season breakdown. We're going to talk about our favorite moves, our favorite plays of the game, generally just talk about the season in review. We'd love to have you all come and join us. And
Tommy's a fresh fan of Survivor, so I feel like it's going to be a really cool perspective to see somebody's experience of watching the season who doesn't have like a super backlog of like all of these winning players and their stories coming into the season. So
it'll be really great.
Yeah. But anyway, like us on YouTube, all that stuff. Definitely subscribe to us on Apple Podcasts as well. Check us out there as well. And everybody, please stay safe. Please don't tweet nasty things. And thanks again, Matt, for joining us tonight. And with that, everybody have a good rest of your night. Goodbye.
Bye.